The information provided in this podcast is alleged and based on our understanding and research at the time of recording. We make every effort to ensure the accuracy of the information presented, but we cannot guarantee that all data is entirely accurate or complete. The opinions expressed herein are solely those of the hosts and contributors. If you have personally been a victim of Elizabeth Teckenbrock and need help, please email e-LIES-abeth@gmail.com. That's ELIES-abethpodcast@gmail.com. You're not alone, and your coming forward can help others get justice as well. Previously on e-LIES-abeth.
It was just always a revolving door of excuses. But she owes 2 months of rent, and there's a lot of damage in the property.
I walked in and I was just sickened, which when all the dog stuff came up this year, I was not surprised.
Who found the dogs like that? Like what? That's what I just told you. My dogs were not left for any amount of time other than a normal thing.
Not all, but most of what my ex-husband has put online is true. Things I have done, things I have said.
I am taking accountability. I cannot get online and say every detail of everything you want me to, because it is not what is best for my kids in the future.
I think that she was overly confident, thinking that nobody would ever put it together. And we did. Chef's kiss.
And just when we thought this chapter of the story was closing, something landed in our inbox. Someone claiming to be a paralegal reached out to us and said they had evidence, recordings of Elizabeth, that would change everything. The past couple episodes have been a lot. I know that there have been twists, turns, new names, new scams. So before we jump into wrapping things up, I want to take a quick minute and hit pause, lay out a simple timeline, and remind you where we're at in the story. Because in this episode, we're bringing things up right to real time, July 2025, in case you're listening from the future. So we know around 2014, Elizabeth enters cosmetology school. This is where she tells friends she was on 16 and pregnant, claims her son's father is dead, which, spoiler, he's not, and gets caught in that lie. In 2016, she moves to Florida, meets Chris, gets engaged, fakes her daughter's cancer until Chris follows up with the pediatrician and finds out their child is healthy. 2017, while still engaged to Chris, she meets Andrew. Within months, she's engaged to Andrew instead of Chris. 2018 to 19, Elizabeth marries Andrew. Not long after, she inserts herself into legal disputes involving Andrew's optometry practice and fabricates a law firm. Writes a $12,000 bad check to her son's teacher. She's opening credit cards in other people's names, selling Andrew's optometry equipment that isn't even paid off without him knowing, and getting evicted from multiple properties for non-payment. Late 2020, Elizabeth's search history shows her researching different types of cancer, fake PayPal invoices, how to write fake checks, and by December she announces she has stage 4 lymphoma and launches a GoFundMe. Early 2021, she creates a Facebook group for her cancer journey and raises thousands of dollars through donations. She also starts receiving large sums of money from a close friend of her grandparents who believes she is fighting cancer and also needs help fleeing an abusive marriage. By the end of 2021, Elizabeth leaves Andrew and the kids around Christmas. January 2022, Elizabeth begins a new narrative, domestic violence. But her search history from this exact period shows searches for fake bruise apps, injury photos, and staged abuse evidence. She files her first injunction against Andrew at this time. Now I want to pause here for a second because Elizabeth has claimed that Andrew was the one behind some of these disturbing search histories. Searches for things like how to fake bruises, photos of domestic violence injury, and honestly, I would love to just leave it at, Elizabeth, give me a break. But instead, let's look at the facts. Let's look at the actual timeline because unless Andrew somehow time traveled or can see into the future, the receipts tell a different story. On January 10th, 2022, Elizabeth searches for fake injury images. No previous searches about abuse, safety, shelters, help, nothing. Just the groundwork for a story that hadn't even been told yet. January 15th, she takes photos of fake bruises. January 18th, more searches, this time for bruise filters and fake injury apps. January 19th, she files her first domestic violence injunction against Andrew. And the pattern repeats itself over and over again. And to anyone still hanging on to the idea that Andrew could have somehow orchestrated this, you need to explain how he managed to time travel back and search for the exact cancer she later claimed to have before she even announced it publicly. There is no plausible explanation that makes these timelines make sense in her favor. These aren't the digital footprints of someone fleeing abuse. These are the receipts of someone building a lie. Throughout 2022, she continues filing DV injunctions, moves into luxury apartments she can't afford, and faces multiple evictions. April 2023, felony charges are filed against her for bank fraud and grand theft. Andrew is granted full custody of their children, and this is when she also meets Richard Powell and provides him the same narrative of having stage 4 cancer and an abusive husband. August 2023, Elizabeth is arrested for check fraud. Not long after posting her bail, her victim, Richard Powell, provides a full statement to police about the nearly $1 million she allegedly conned from him. In 2024, Elizabeth launches the nonprofit Fear to Fierce, advertising a Bridgerton-themed gala and rakes in donations for an event that never happened. Mid to late 2024, she rebrands as mental health and DV advocate, launches a podcast, and Andrew also starts sharing his story. Early 2025, as process servers attempt to serve her for an unpaid podcast contract, Elizabeth is caught neglecting her dogs and eventually served while hiding out at her boyfriend's house. She continues posting online, though, blaming Andrew and claiming accountability while her actions say otherwise. Spring 2025, myself, Sherilyn Dale, and Cece Suarez begin our investigation. We start piecing together the lies and the receipts, and people who know and have been conned by her start reaching out to tell their stories. What started as a potential 45-minute hot topic episode on Here for the Clout podcast quickly became something much bigger. Maybe it's both Chelsea and I's heightened justice sensitivity, a very common trait for us ADHDers, but we realized this story needed to get out there. Elizabeth is dangerous, needed to be exposed, and we weren't going to buckle under her threats, lies, and manipulation. Like we said in the first episode, we gave Elizabeth the opportunity to answer a series of questions to clear any of the accusations about her up. She declined. Andrew was given the same opportunity and has not declined any of the questions we have had for him so far. 3 of the most serious allegations being, Andrew is a Scientologist. We have heard not only from Andrew, but his family as well, that is utterly false. The other, that Andrew abused Elizabeth.
Elizabeth, after she went viral, made the video again, and she mentioned that there was financial abuse throughout the relationship. One thing that Elizabeth failed to mention is that in August of 2021, 4 months before we legally separated, she had $800,000 that she scammed from an elderly man, a friend of her actual grandparents, someone that she's known for a long time. So when she claims that she had no money when she left me, that is very untrue. She had a lot of money. She chose to spend that money on trips, cars, everything but quote unquote escaping, because she had nothing to escape from. And so she spent that money and it was gone within 6 months. I filed for divorce in February of 2022. With this money, she never attempted to do anything with that money as far as the kids go, as far as the divorce goes, or to secure any type of future for them. So as far as financial abuse, she had more than enough money than anyone could have ever needed or wanted to hire attorneys to quote unquote fight for any type of custody and to secure a stable future. And if you watch my story, you will know I have shown many receipts on what actually transpired, reasons why she left, what she was doing when she left, her financial situation when she left, the state of her mind, what she was actually up to when she left, not only myself, but all of our kids, the 2 that we have together, plus my 2 stepkids, her 2 other kids from 2 other fathers. When she left at the end of 21, early 2022, she had all the finances in the world and had started to realize that I was onto her. And so that is when she started creating paper trails with fake bruising app searches to create fake bruise marks on her body. She started telling people in real life that there was DV and SA. And then obviously when we went viral, she continued those same narratives because she had already been doing it in real life for 2 to 3 years at that point. So these narratives are simply her narratives that she made up to justify how she left and why she left, along with faking cancer. At one point, she said that she faked cancer to get away from me. Well, after I knew she didn't have cancer, she stayed. So this other narrative of she left me, she came up with cancer to leave me is simply not true. These allegations that she has claimed against me have never been true, And they're the furthest thing from the truth. They're just simply more lies that she wants you to believe and expects you to believe because she's a woman and I'm a man. Other claims that she made is that we never went before a judge, and that is the furthest from the truth. We went before a judge on a Zoom hearing that she actually hung up on that needed to be rescheduled for in person so she could not hang up the phone. So we had a hearing in person. On that in-person hearing, she felt uncomfortable, and we actually rescheduled to another in-person hearing because she wanted to explain her case and her situation. So we actually had another in-person hearing before a judge with the contracts, with the divorce agreement signed. And she decided that she did not want to honor the agreement that we have both signed. So the judge allowed her to speak and make her claim. At the end of that, she asked to have time sharing with the children, where the judge told her no. The judge denied her time sharing at that time. The judge said that he did not find her credible. The judge told her that she needs to get her stuff in order, a job, a house, a psychological evaluation, and we can have a hearing at another date to evaluate those things. So she had an opportunity to present her case to a judge, and she was denied any type of supervised visits or any parental time at that court hearing. We rescheduled for another one. At the rescheduled hearing, where we were going to talk about time sharing with the children, she was required to show up. She was sick in the hospital that day, and the judge required her to bring in a note. The next day, Elizabeth contacted my attorneys and said she will sign the document, sign the agreement. This is speculation, but when the judge asked for that hospital visit, I think that if she did not provide that, would not have gone so well. So at that time, when the judge requested proof of a hospital visit, that is when she recontacted my attorneys and agreed to go with the proposed parenting plan. As far as the claims of parental alienation, that is another narrative that she has made up and put forward in her storyline when she went viral. If you listen to my story or have listened to my story and how everything transpires, you will understand that many opportunities were given to Elizabeth to co-parent. She cared about social media. She cared about staying on social media and keeping me off social media. Anytime that there was an arranged time for her to spend time with, the children were blown off. She would not show up for them, or she would find reasons to not be able to be there. So throughout the process until we were officially divorced, there was no parental alienation. And if you have watched my story, you can see that she ran, she left. Once the scams were figured out, and I had figured out the scams, she ended up running away. It had nothing to do with keeping children from anyone. In fact, she would pawn off her older kids to other people during this time as well. So the only one that was keeping her from any of her children was her, and potentially the relationships that she was actually rather build, whether they were boyfriends or friendships or with her mother at the time. Children were not a priority and are still not a priority for her even to this day.
And the third serious allegation, Andrew has a prior record.
Another topic that my ex-wife came online to share with everyone was that I've had another woman file a temporary restraining order against me. And that is true. In 2015, I had allowed ex-girlfriend to borrow a vehicle for a few weeks. I gave them the keys to the vehicle. After 2 weeks, I tried to get that vehicle back, and they would not give it back. At that time, I actually reported it to the police. I said, it's a stolen vehicle. I need my vehicle back. I told them the situation. They said, did you hand her the keys? I said, yes, but for 2 weeks. And they said, well, you handed her the key. We can't do anything about it. It is a civil matter. It is not a criminal matter because I handed her the keys. So what did I do? Well, I knew where she worked because we were dating, and I started to track down my car, so to speak, at her work. So you see her out at bars. Basically, I was trying to get my vehicle back, and obviously she didn't have a car, so she did not want to lose the car that I had let her borrow. So what did she do? Well, she called the police and told the police that I am stalking her. I am following her around, and maybe there was some truth to that, but I was following my vehicle around. And there is a law in Florida, maybe other places, that says that you cannot file an injunction against somebody to keep them from property. And that's all she did. The cop that showed up that night, and again, this is my experience with this cop in the situation, is that he saw the situation. I told him the situation. I said, that is my car. Here's my license. Here's the registration to the vehicle. Everything matches. I said, I just want my car back. And this is the phrase where I really registered home for me. Possession is 9/10 of the law. She was technically in possession of the vehicle. He said if she was willing to give you the keys to the car, then yes, you can take it. She said no. The officer told me that because she said no, he's not going to take it, and he would advise me to not do anything to secure my vehicle at that time. So I went home and I left. I found out later that that cop talked to her one-on-one and suggested that she file a temporary restraining order against me for stalking and harassment. And so she did. And so I could not, at that time, go near her or even my vehicle because she was considered to be in possession of it. So long story short of it is that we go to this hearing and she shows up. I know there's been a lot of rumors online and a lot of people saying, not a lot, there's 3, that said that she never showed up for this hearing. She showed up twice. She showed up the first time for this hearing without an attorney. When I showed up and she had no attorney, she wanted it to be rescheduled. She said, I don't have an attorney present and I want one. Can I please reschedule it? And the judge honored it. So we rescheduled for later on. So this time we go back to court to talk about this, and she did not hire an attorney. She just wanted more time with the vehicle, which she got. So she explained to the judge what was going on. She said that he's stalking me, he's harassing me, all these things. And we had text evidence of everything that I was doing. We had text evidence of everything that I was communicating prior to the temporary restraining order. All my texts and communication were about getting my vehicle back. Anytime that I was near her in the car, conversations were about the car. So we presented all this to the judge, and the judge saw this. And again, there is a statute or a law that says that, and we had my registration. I was insured on the vehicle. I had the registration to the vehicle. I made the payments on the vehicle. Everything showed that it was my vehicle. And we presented that law that says you cannot file these type of restraining orders to keep someone from their property. It is actually illegal. The judge looked at all the evidence from both sides, and the other party actually did make a comment. They said that at one point I was chasing them around the kitchen with a knife. And the judge asked her, the judge said, this never happened, but the judge said, well, then what did you do? And she said, I called 911. I'll never forget this. And the judge said, and what did they say? And she proceeded to say that when she called 911, they said, 911, what's your emergency? Can you please hold? So she told this judge that she called 911 on me because I was chasing her with a knife, and 911 put her on hold. I will just say that the judge, very professional, the bailiff, everyone in that room held it together pretty well because they found that to, imagine calling 911 in your emergency and they say, can you please hold? So at that point, with all of my evidence, her delaying this, everything showing that she filed this on the officer that night's recommendation, so she had more time with the car, keep me away from the car, and that she tried to say that she called 911 on me and they put her on hold, the judge immediately dismissed the case, and that was it. And a week later, I got my car back, and that has been that. So that story, my ex-wife actually knew about that whole situation. She knew it was denied, but when she went viral again, she had to bring up that situation that was denied, that TRO, and she did that on purpose. She wants people to think that there's a pattern. She wants people to think that this has happened to not just her, but multiple people, when in fact, every single claim against me has been denied. The one back in 2015, and all the ones, I think it's 6 of them against my ex-wife. All these false TROs were thrown out, and contrary to popular belief, most of them, the one in 15, the other party showed up, not once, but twice, and all but, I think 1 or maybe 2 of the 6 with my ex-wife, she showed up for. So I've had to explain myself in front of a judge several times that these allegations are false, they are not true, and they are lying to paint this picture. And I have every time been dismissed. There's no charges. I have no active restraining orders against me. Everything has been thrown out and proven to be untrue. So these are a lot of these things that she came online to try and paint these narratives. And I just want to officially and formally debunk these things and prove my innocent. And I have never been proven guilty of any of these things. These are all narratives and things for online.
We aren't here to say Andrew is a perfect victim or even that he didn't abuse Elizabeth, because we don't know that. What we do know is anytime he has been asked about specific allegations and clarification, he has been able to back up his claims with evidence and unwavering consistency. Elizabeth can't. She has thrown out very vague accounts of serious allegations and has not been able to prove any of it. She's proven time and time again that she is deceitful and calculated in how she lies, manipulates, and takes from people who only want to help her. Which brings us to a topic that has been mentioned by several victims and former friends on this series, but we haven't gotten really deep into it yet. the websites. There's a reason we haven't said much about them, and that's because we wanted real answers once and for all about who was behind them. To recap, there are a couple websites made about Elizabeth and some of the crimes that she has been accused of. One specifically that was sent to her inner circle and that had timelines of her criminal history and allegations of fraud, for her cancer lies, the fear to fear scam, and a brief breakdown of Mr. Powell's son's complaint to the judge. It contains all public information that we have already gone through in this series, but not as in-depth. And it has hashtags throughout it like, "My ex did it," and "Don't believe my court records." On the surface, it obviously paints her in a bad light and implies that her ex-husband Andrew is behind it. And she definitely stroked that fire of assumptions. You may recall in Rachel's interview, there was a time Elizabeth said Rachel's catfish and Andrew were even behind it.
The last person she told me that it was the person that is catfishing me. She told me at one point in time that Andrew had confessed to her that they had spoken, the catfish, and Andrew had spoken, and that they made the website. And I remember I was like, you are insane. I go, that's crazy. And I've also asked Andrew about that since, and he's like, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Andrew has repeatedly denied having anything to do with the website, and even said he's sharing even more evidence and receipts on his series on TikTok and YouTube. So if it was his website, why wouldn't he just update it there as well? And sure, I see the point, but we wanted to know for sure. So we reached out to a private investigator who specializes in online tracking and investigations. It took a couple weeks, but days ago we received a report back. And this is what it said.
In response to the ticket raised regarding potential links between Andrew Cormier and the domains sites.google.com/views/ElizabethTeckenbrock-info, themoremovementco.com, we provide the following findings. Number 1. Network activity related to Andrew Cormier. Our analysis confirms that the IP addresses and devices associated with Andrew Cormier have not interacted with either of the above-mentioned websites. No network traces, logs, or digital artifacts were identified that would link Mr. Cormier directly or indirectly to the creation, administration, or browsing of these domains. Number 2. Domain ownership and administrative overlap. Both domains were registered and administered via the same account credentials. The IP addresses used during the purchase and subsequent administrative activity for both domains are identical, strongly indicating they were created and managed by the same individual or entity. Number 3. Google Sites user account attribution. The user account operating the Google site sites.google.com/views/ElizabethTeckenbrock-info has been linked to social media accounts associated with Elizabeth Teckenbrock. Our data indicates that the same user account accessed both the Google site and the relevant social media platforms, further corroborating a connection. Number 4. Network monitoring and IP correlation findings. As part of our analysis, we conducted network monitoring and correlation of IP activity among several subjects of interest. We can confirm that IP addresses attributed to Elizabeth Teckenbrock have actively connected to both websites listed above. Additionally, we have identified what we assess to be an associate or assistant of Ms. Teckenbrock, whose network activity overlaps significantly with both sites as well. Please advise if you require deeper analysis, further correlation with other datasets, or assistance with any next steps. Regards. Knox.
When I tell you this has become one of the wildest rides of my life, I'm not even exaggerating. I don't know what I was expecting the outcome of the websites to be. Chelsea and I have ran so many people and scenarios through our heads, and while we usually circled back to suspecting Elizabeth, it was always followed up with why. Was the desire to paint Andrew so poorly that he lost any credibility when he came forward with his story worth sharing information that painted her in a bad light too? And based on these findings, I guess the answer is yes. Because the goal has and remains to discredit Andrew so she can continue to have a bigger villain in her story than herself. So now that we're all caught up on where we are in real time, I wanted to dive deeper on where things are at right now with Elizabeth. Because despite hearing from people who knew her telling us how she operates, there's a small part of me that thought there was no way she was going to continue lying so boldly. Not when she knew there were eyes on her, right? Wrong. Let's start with Elizabeth's job. She has claimed that she has a job, but won't say what it is because the internet haters want to ruin her life and call and harass any establishment that she's worked at, and she's ultimately forced to leave. There's really not a nice way of saying this besides bullshit. That's never happened because she's not had a job in the last couple of years. Well, not a legitimate one that would require her to be classified as a W-2 worker at least. If she was, because of the over $20,000 she owes in child support to Andrew, her wages would be garnished, and that hasn't happened. This is something that is easily proven as a lie, yet she continues to lie to her supporters and act like she is the victim. Like I said in the last episode, once you see how she operates, it's almost impossible not to see through her. And if you listen to her long enough, she starts to tell on herself. She's done this in a recent live stream. People who had been listening to the podcast were asking very reasonable questions like, why don't you get off social media and work on yourself and start paying your victims back? She barked back saying she'd get off the internet and get a job if people didn't call her employers and get her fired.
You gave yourself time off social media to do some healing. If you can pay my bills, I would love to get off social media, honestly. Or if you could find me a job that'll hire me with all the shit that's online, or find me a job that I can keep without those psychos calling it to get me fired, let me know and my ass will be off this fucking app before you can blink. Dead ass, serious. Until then, shut the fuck up.
Immediately, the comments started flooding in and saying, I thought you said you had multiple jobs. Her face shifts, realizing she's called out in a lie, and she tries to backpedal.
Oh, I have a job. Not for a job I'm sharing. Anyway, so that's it. Reed, I know you're confused, but in reality, you're probably not because you're here as one of those fake profiles. And yeah.
I will say it's been refreshing to see the amount of people willing to listen to the podcast open-minded, take in the facts presented, and be brave enough to publicly admit that they were bamboozled, as we all were, and been able to respectfully call out her lies as they see them happening. They're also now able to see the manipulation tactics she uses when people hold her accountable for her own actions and behaviors. The newest one since the podcast has launched is that we won't stop until she unalives herself. And no one wants to see that. Despite what Elizabeth Teckenbrock thinks, we would love nothing more than for her to be held accountable for her crimes and go on to flourish in life as an honest, contributing member of society. Painting us as the villain and her once again as the victim for bringing her own actions to light is Elizabeth Manipulation 101. She has used this method on every single person we have spoken to. We want justice for the people she's wronged, and that wouldn't be possible if she wasn't here. We want her kids to have a healthy role model who is able to do the right thing, accept the consequences, right their wrongs, and guide them on a different path than she took. I recently heard a quote that shook me to my core, and it was, "Believe the pattern, not the person." And that's all we ask you to do. To this day, the pattern hasn't changed. Elizabeth is still going on live stream every day, getting ready to go out to dinner and clubs, leaving her children with people she hardly knows when it's her time with them, and spending other people's money on things like hair, nails, trips, and nights out. And I'm not talking about the victims that we've already gone through. I'm talking about her latest scam, stealing money from the few people who still believed her online. It wasn't through a fundraiser for domestic violence awareness or cancer treatment funds. This time, it was selling her used clothes and jewelry. On June 5th, 2025, she listed several different clothing items on Instagram stories, and we know of at least 2 supporters who wanted to give her the benefit of the doubt and decided to purchase some of the pieces. Let's go through the exchange together, and you let me know if this is someone who has taken accountability and is working on being a better person.
Has anyone claimed?
They have asked, but no one has paid for it yet, so if you want it, it's yours.
How are you doing shipping? Are you going through goods and services on PayPal?
I can do PayPal. No one else has asked for that, but I'm fine doing it. It's $15 for shipping just because that is like going to be a larger package. And I'll ship through FedEx and give you tracker.
Okay, that sounds great. I'll take this too.
You got it.
What's the price for these?
$15.
Okay, you have so many good things.
I'm literally not even a quarter of the way through my stuff. It's actually insane.
Should I wait to bundle?
Totally up to you. I'll probably be done within the next half hour if you want to wait. Okay, girly, that's all for now.
So I'll just take the set of bathing suits, Lulu size, medium jacket, and those Levi shorts that I slid up on. All those items available?
Yes, babe, I saved them for you. Okay, so it's 80. Then I should be able to ship everything still for the same $15.
Okay, sweet. Sending $95 on PayPal. Goods and services.
Perfect. Just send over your address, babe, and I'll send this weekend.
Sent.
Got it. I'll send you tracking this weekend.
Thank you so much. Do you have the tracking number?
Hi. I'm sending it out tomorrow morning on my way to drop off my daughter to camp. It is much cheaper at the post office. UPS was $60 today with the size of the box, and my grandma can get me a discount at the post office.
Yay for discounts. Perfect. Thank you for the update.
You got it, babe. Heading to ship now.
Yay.
9405-5362-0831-5301-325737. Here's a tracking number, babe. My grandma get me the discount, so her work essentially just collect the packages, and then the UPS carrier comes and get them. But that is the label and the tracking number.
Okay, is shipping USPS?
Yes.
Okay, I'll check tracking when I'm home. Thank you.
Sorry, I accidentally said UPS and I meant to say USPS. I get those confused all the time.
Okay, sweet. I get the two confused all the time. I haven't had a minute to check. I'll check now, though. I work at a private practice and it's been insanely busy.
Busy can be good sometimes not. LOL.
This is what I see on my end. So maybe they just haven't picked it up yet?
I'll check with her in about an hour. I think when they pick it up, then they scan it when it's at the actual post office. I have like 4 others that I sent through Poshmark, and I dropped them off at my grandma's, and Poshmark created the label, so they still haven't gotten scanned. So that's my guess.
Okay, sounds great. Also, thanks for posting about what's going on in the world. Love seeing people with big followings speak up.
Of course, always will.
Hi, girl. Still no update on the tracking. I'll screenshot to show you what I'm getting.
Hi, does it update now? If it doesn't, I'll send you it back.
It's still saying the same thing. What happened?
I have no idea, but they have been picked up. Do you have Cash App? I'm going to send it to you back. You'll still get it, but I'll pay it.
I don't have Cash App, only PayPal. If you could send it back through there, that would be great. I did request a refund to PayPal as I have not received anything from you.
Okay, I can send it back on there. I'm sorry, I don't know why it hasn't arrived or why it hasn't even sent on my end. I don't see anything. I don't even see the request. Can you send me your PayPal username? I'll send it back right this second.
It will be under activity as well, since I recently sent you money. Any update when you're sending it back? If not, I can just dispute it at this point.
Hi, I allowed them to send it back. It just says it's pending, so if you can tell me when you get it. If not, I don't mind to send it to you on another platform. But I haven't received it yet. Like, it never deposited it to me. I think it doesn't until you've received the package or something. I'm not sure how it works, but I don't mind to give it back.
Okay. I'll call PayPal and see what's going on.
It sent it. It's pending now, and packages will be there tomorrow. Just keep the money.
If I receive the package, there's no way I will keep the money. That's not who I am. I have not received anything from PayPal, but I'll check tracking to see, and if I receive it, I will contact you.
Stay with me because it gets worse. This was the first exchange. Now let's compare the interaction between Elizabeth and the second person that reached out to us.
Hey girlie, other people are asking and I didn't get your payment, so I just want to make sure before I go ahead and give it to them.
Just paid. Sorry.
Got it. Thanks, babe.
Thanks, girl. Take care of yourself.
I'll send you the tracking as soon as I send it out this weekend.
Hey, girl, are you selling any jewelry or makeup? I was going to try and bundle if so. Hey, girl, were you able to get anything shipped this weekend? I'm a little nervous because when I went to Cash App you, it had several warnings of people reporting the account for fraud.
Yeah, they did it over and over. All Andrew's people.
Yeah, I had a feeling. I just wanted to make sure. I know he's done that and had many people do that before. I'm so sorry.
I'll have it shipped first thing in the morning. UPS wanted more than $15 to ship, $40, but my grandma said that she gets a discount at the post office, so it'll be way less. As soon as I send it in the morning, I'll send you the tracking.
Okay, no problem. If you need more money for shipping, that's no worries. I know shipping costs are going up everywhere. I ordered from ASOS and got a crazy bill for shipping. I get it. If you'll send me the receipt when you ship, I'll Cash App you more for shipping.
No more money. I got it handled for the other cost. I'll send it in the morning. I have 2 of the same bag. You're gonna love it.
Girl, $40 for shipping is a lot. You don't need to pay that on your own.
No, it will only be $15 or maybe less at the post office. UPS was charging $40.
Oh, I see. Yellow is my favorite color. I've bought so many yellow things. I got my colors done, and I'm a spring. I was so excited to get to wear yellow all the time. We're different clothing sizes, but if you have any more non-clothes items, I'd love to take more off your hands.
Heading to ship now.
Thanks, sis. Did you happen to get a tracking number?
9405362008315301325737. Hey babe, here's the tracking number. My grandma get me a discount. So her work essentially just collects the packages and then UPS carrier comes and gets them. But that's the label and tracking number. Hey babe, one of the packages updated, so I'm sure yours will anytime soon.
Hi, thank you for staying on top of it and giving me updates. I have family in Clearwater, and I've been dying to go to my first EDM festival. If that ever happens, I might reach out to you to show me the ropes.
Oh my God, which one? We can go.
Any. I've never been to one, but it's on my bucket list. I think EDC would be so fun. EDC Orlando.
Hey, I sent you $40 back for the purse. It will send, but for some reason they haven't picked it up yet. And I don't want you paying since it's going to be late. You'll still get it.
Oh, you don't have to do that.
Girl, yes, for real, let it be. It's rude that it hasn't been picked up. And that's on me for doing it that way. I'll let you know when it updates. She said today.
Okay, thanks, girl. Hey, girl, I wanted to reach back out about the purse. The tracking number still just says awaiting item. So I called and they said they haven't received anything other than a label being created, but they don't have the item.
It will be there tomorrow. I just talked to customer service for 40 minutes. Hi, Lauren, did you get the bag?
No, ma'am, I didn't.
What's the total you sent me? I knew I sent $40. What else did you send so I can send it back now?
I sent $65 total for shipping and the bag. I appreciate that.
You're telling the internet you didn't get the bag and I didn't send you money? I sent you $40 back days after since it didn't arrive because I felt so bad.
I just said I ordered bag and never received it. You did pay me $40 back. I'll gladly say that. I just still haven't gotten the shipping fee you asked for back and still no bag, despite you saying it would come. And the tracking number you gave me never said anything other than waiting for sender to submit item. I noticed several other people said the same thing, so I acknowledged that was the case for me as well.
This woman did not even have the decency to at least personalize her responses. She copy and pasted the same reply, which to me indicates we have many more people scammed by this, because if it was just the two who reached out, I'm sure she could have just handled writing them individually. And not only did she copy and paste the reply, she used the same made-up tracking number, which sadly doesn't surprise me. We've seen that she's so confident in her ability to control and deceive people that she didn't even anticipate all her former friends getting together and connecting the dots. Why would she ever think strangers would compare tracking numbers? Second thing we need to acknowledge here is we're all seeing at this point her grandma's resume has changed more time than her dad's resurrection from the dead, right? When Todd was demanding his money, it was grandma's fault. When Elizabeth's babysitter needed a second job because Elizabeth couldn't pay her all the hours she'd already worked, she said her grandma could get her a job at the hospital. I don't even think we talked about this poor young woman going to a hospital for a job interview, allegedly arranged by Elizabeth's grandma, not once but twice, and of course no one knew she was there for an interview or Elizabeth's grandma. If you go back and listen to the series again, you're probably going to notice in multiple text messages that it's always a misunderstanding and somehow involves her grandma. Not to say that I think her grandmother is complicit. I don't think she knows how often she's been thrown under the bus. I personally think Liz uses her as a scapegoat because when people hear grandma, they usually drop their guard and find more patience. Who's going to want to kick up a stink for their clothes not arriving when it's basically been set up to fall on her grandma's shoulders? As of recording, which is July 9th, 2025, the two women we spoke to have not received their clothes. In fact, one of them saw Elizabeth wearing the bikini she purchased from her in a video after she sent the money. And while we're talking about people coming forward, I wanted to thank those who have been speaking out about Elizabeth long before it was safe, and doing so under the weight of threats and being dismissed as obsessed haters. If you search hashtags pertaining to Elizabeth like Inventing Elizabeth or just Elizabeth Teckenbrock, you will find several pages who have done a tremendous job of not only exposing the lies, but being a point of trust and compassion for victims who have been too embarrassed in the past to come forward. And to the victims who have been brave enough to come forward publicly, you do not know how much strength your story gives others to tell theirs. The most recent to come out and share his experience with Elizabeth is a man named Jordan, who did a story time of his experience on TikTok.
I flew across the country for 3 days to meet a popular creator who turned out to be a pathological liar, and I only saw her for an hour. I met the creator on this app, and let's not get it twisted, she approached me and started liking all my videos and sent me a DM. Let's call her Brooke. Now here's my first mistake. I saw she was a pretty popular creator, but I didn't look at her history and what actually made her popular in the first place. And pretty soon we were texting and FaceTiming pretty much every day. We decided we needed to meet, but this would be a bit of a task because she has kids, so we would have to maneuver around that. Now, she told me she skied and she snowboarded, so we thought it would be dope to do a ski trip. So we actually planned a full ski trip to Aspen. The only thing we didn't book at the time was the Airbnb because they were pretty much all sold out. But she told me she'd have a babysitter and those dates were locked. Not even a week after we booked the trip, she said she didn't really want to wait another few weeks to meet, so asked if I was free to meet the following weekend to come to Florida. Florida is across the country for me, a 6-hour flight to be exact, but she was pretty convincing. She told me if I wanted to come to Florida, she lived with her best friend and she could watch the kids while we went out on Friday night, Saturday day, Saturday night, and then go to the game on Sunday. Now, obviously because she had kids, it would mean I would need to get both my flight and an Airbnb, which is fine, but obviously it would be better to stay with the person if you're flying across the country and making all these plans with them, especially in a place that you don't know anyone. So I said yes, I rearrange my life, I book a flight, find an Airbnb, I pack up quickly, and I head out. She's hyping it up the entire time. In fact, right up until I was boarding my flight, she was sending me tons of excited messages. Can't wait for you to get here, can't wait to see you, can't wait to kiss you, etc. The plan that night was for her to pick me up, we would go to my Airbnb, drop my stuff off, and go to dinner and go out with her friends. Literally, as my flight was taking off, she sent me this message. This came out of nowhere. I didn't get it until I got Wi-Fi on the plane, so I'm 35,000 feet in the air reading this like it's a hostage note. She has barely ever mentioned work before. Come to think of it, maybe not at all. We just planned a weekend trip to Aspen. She never said she had to get off work. Now I'm in a weird spot. I've never met this woman or her friends and don't know anyone in this part of Florida. And she's suggesting a random person pick me up like lost luggage item at baggage claim. I politely declined the pickup and just told her that I'd meet her friends after I checked in. She promised me that this was the only shift she would have for the weekend and apologized a bunch, so it was fine. I got in, I checked into the Airbnb, and I met up with her friends, and honestly, they were super cool and very nice. A few of them made little comments about the girl I was there to see and definitely gave me some looks when I mentioned her work, but at the time, not enough for me to notice, and when we were taking shots until the bar closed, I was just occupied anyway. I did get a "you're brave" from one of the guys, and that was weird, because brave, I just thought I was going on a date, not hiking Mount Everest. And she did text me first thing in the morning, all my friends loved you, etc. And the plan for us was to see each other as soon as she woke up, but I wanted to get a workout in, so I told her I just wanted to do a quick class of berries, and then we can meet for lunch. Now, this actually happened. We finally met. We went to a good lunch in the little town in her city, and while we were at lunch, we actually booked the Airbnb for our trip to Aspen. I'd actually like to note she booked the Airbnb in front of me, which threw me off because I was like, damn, like maybe she is real. And after she did that, she also told me she had a suite at the football game tomorrow, and me and all her friends from last night were all gonna go and have a great rest of the weekend. I was pretty convinced, and I wasn't too worried about the night before because it seemed like we were having a good time. She did talk about herself a lot though, and some things were just like not adding up. One thing she kept saying that didn't sit right with me was how much of her personal life was on the internet, and she didn't want me to talk about anything we did on the internet. So I thought that was kind of weird. So after lunch, she goes to check on the kids and tells me to chill at the bar until tonight. So 4 p.m., I get a text, I just woke up from a nap. 5 p.m., getting ready now. 6 p.m., love spending time with you. 7 p.m., waiting on a babysitter. 8 p.m., radio silence. We had dinner reservations at some Michelin star restaurant that I already had to prepay for, but I'm still just sitting at the same bar. I'm a friendly person, so I've made a bunch of new friends. Well, I started to do some research about Brooke while I'm sitting there, Matter of fact, half the bar starts to do the research. And wow, the things I found out. I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Who is this person? Now I don't know what's real and what's fake, but I kind of started to get an idea. So she doesn't really have a job. She doesn't really have her kids full times. It seems like she's in a custody battle. There seems to be a struggle with drugs. I don't think she's ever skied or snowboarded, even though that's the least of my worries. But she's definitely not going to Aspen. She definitely doesn't have a box suite at this game tomorrow. I don't think her best friend / assistant, whatever she called her, is actually her babysitter. And she's got a pretty rough history with her friends in general. And definitely a rough history with at least 1 or 2 exes that seems to be ongoing. Literally everything she told me no longer makes sense. We had been talking every day for over a month, FaceTimes, text messages, and I didn't know about any of this stuff online. But what I do know is that she definitely wasn't showing up that night, and confronting her would probably have to wait until tomorrow. So I told my new friends I was down to go out with them, and we hit downtown Tampa and some other places and had a hell of a night, honestly. The next morning, Sunday, I woke up definitely hungover and definitely a little panicky. I looked for flights home and there are none worth taking, but I'm curious to what excuse I'm going to get this time. And to no surprise, around 10 a.m., I get a brand new one. My brother, last night. My first thought is, damn. Second thought is, didn't she say she was an only child? So I confront her calmly, and here's what she said back. She sends me screenshots with her best friend, who is now on TikTok, also calling her a liar and kind of inspired this story. Turns out the girl fabricated literally everything. I spent all day Sunday canceling everything from a little cafe in town, and instead I just booked a flight to Miami. I didn't ask to see her again, absolutely no interest, but I did leave one of my jackets in her car after lunch. If this tells you anything about asking for something simple when I literally flew across the country, I figured this was just one thing she could do, just give back the jacket. She proceeds to gaslight me for 24 hours, promising she's on the way like she's fucking DoorDash. Jacket never came, neither did she. Monday, on my flight to Miami, I see the Airbnb she booked pop back up on my saved list as available. She obviously canceled it. I rebooked it on the spot and I went to Aspen a few weeks later. Anyway, I do want to say I see the videos from her friends, and luckily I only got a weekend of the weird shit at the expense of like time and energy and a few bucks. But do your research, kids, before you go anywhere for anyone.
There we go, back at it trying to kill her family off. Also, as of recording July 9th, 2025, Jordan has not gotten his jacket back, and in a recent live stream, he even shared more lies that was told by Elizabeth, one of them being that she was a former semi-pro snowboarder. Again, something that's not true. She's had more careers than Barbie, and if I didn't know that she was a full-time fraud, I'd honestly be impressed. But we aren't in Barbie land. This is real life, and these are real victims. What started as a project to amplify their voices has turned into much more than that. It's brought people together, provided answers to long-awaited questions, and even vindication to victims who have been villainized. And because of that, victims are still slowly coming forward. One of them is someone we have lightly referenced but haven't gotten in depth about because they've not publicly spoken out. Until now. Jason and his ex-wife Debbie, 2 people who knew Elizabeth since she was a young girl, because they were close friends and neighbors with her grandparents. Prior to Richard Powell, there was Jason. Elizabeth fed him and others the story that she was fleeing an abusive husband with stage 4 cancer, and to try to help her get out of her situation, he co-signed on a $4,000 a month property. This was the house that Elizabeth told Andrew she was approved for on her own as a single mother with the single mom grant at a fraction of the price of what it was listed for. There was no single mom grant. The property wasn't a fraction of the price that it was listed for. Jason was the co-signer, she defaulted on payments, and he was also taken to court because of it. This is the house that she left Andrew and the girls in while she moved in with someone else. Unbeknownst to Andrew, it was Jason's name on the lease. And unbeknownst to Jason, the very man Elizabeth claimed she was fleeing from was the one living in the house he believed he was helping her escape to. It was the perfect con, I guess. 2 men, 2 completely different versions of the same lie. And in the middle of it all, Elizabeth, pulling the strings while everyone else paid the price. The price for Jason and his family was steep. It wasn't just co-signing a lease she defaulted on. It was also funding her lavish lifestyle under the same tired script we've heard so many times. She needed money for cancer treatment and mounting medical bills, food for her kids and living expenses. You know the drill. Before he knew it, Jason had lost everything. And if you asked his ex-wife, Debbie, there was a lot to lose, and Elizabeth knew exactly what was at stake. Because this wasn't just any old Mark. Elizabeth knew Jason's history. She knew his mother had been murdered. She knew he had inherited money after her death, money he planned to pass down to his sons one day. And now, there's nothing left to show for it. We have heard some cold-blooded lies in this series, some truly gut-wrenching deception, but hearing from Debbie and Jason took things to a whole new level of darkness. To lie like this, to drain the life savings of someone whose own mother was stolen from him in the most horrific way, that's not heartless. It's evil. With everything that we have uncovered, something we didn't anticipate was becoming part of the storyline. It happened on May 27th, 2025, when an email came through at 5:18 p.m. from an alleged paralegal who we will call CJ Talker.
Hi, I messaged you through IG before I located your email address. I would like to discuss an audio recording of Elizabeth Teckenbrock I have in my possession. Actually, I gave about 90 minutes of audio. I prefer to stay an anonymous source at this point. Let me know if you would like to talk.
Hello, TJ. Please provide the following details. How did you come into possession of this audio recording? Was Elizabeth aware that she was being recorded? What is your association with Elizabeth? What does the audio recording consist of? And if you feel inclined, please upload the file to Google Drive, click share, and change access to anyone with link, and send us the link.
Robbie referred her to me. I prepared her TikTok video statement a year ago where she was responding to his clapback video after the cupcake debacle. Of course, she was aware of the phone conversation being recorded. Hopefully, this answers your initial questions. I have approximately 120 minutes of audio from our discovery call.
TJ, your business address listed in your email signature is the address of a Howard Johnson motel.
I was staying in their executive housing while relocating, but a bit unclear how that would apply.
That's fair. Liz has impersonated many people before, including entire law firms. We're just being cautious and keeping an eye out for red flags. However, the attachment from your last email was missing. We'd be very interested in looking over / listening to the recording and appreciate you reaching out. Please be sure to send that over. Hi, TJ. We are following up on our previous email.
I understand your caution given the current situation, and I appreciate you taking the time to consider my outreach. Before we proceed further, I need to address my primary concern, source protection. I have legitimate worries about potential retaliation if my involvement becomes known prematurely. Can you provide assurances about how you handle source confidentiality and what protections you have in place for people who come forward with sensitive information? I have first-hand information about this story from professional work I did last year. During that time, I documented conversations legally recorded with proper consent that have since been contradicted by court proceedings and public evidence. At the time, I was unaware of any deception. I was simply performing professional services that were never paid for. I want to assure you that I'm not playing games or wasting anyone's time. This involves documented evidence that I believe serves the public interest. However, given the sensitive nature of what I witnessed, I need to proceed thoughtfully and with proper safeguards. I hope you understand my position and can address my concerns about source protection. If you can provide those assurances, I'd be happy to discuss this further. Thank you for your understanding and the work you do.
Good morning. We've had many people come forward with information who want to remain anonymous. I'm not sure what protections and assurances you are hoping for. We would not include your name if you wish to remain anonymous. Your digital footprint is already relatively sparse, so we wouldn't expect anyone to be able to find you to retaliate. Having said that, if we used the audio recording in an episode, Elizabeth would know who the conversation was with. You would also be breaking client-attorney privilege, which paralegals are held to. Although that line is a bit murky, as you're stating, she did not pay you. Due to the subject matter, level of production value of our project, and the industry standard, we are required to obtain ID verification from all of our sources included in this project, whether they are portrayed as anonymous to the public or not. I'm sure as a freelancer, you're used to this and filling out W-9 forms and receiving 1099s. Any form of government-issued ID is sufficient. After you send that over, we'd be happy to have our production partners send over the NDA, which includes a clause regarding your anonymity in this current project the audio podcast limited series. Once we finalize our negotiations for the documentary, we will be able to reassess if you want to continue to remain anonymous at that point. Please keep in mind, this does not guarantee your participation in the projects, or that we will use any source material that you have provided. Please provide the requested ID for verification, and we will move forward. TJ, I've attached our NDA.
Naturally, the first thought was, this is Elizabeth, but we wanted to see how far things would go.
Hi. Thank you for your follow-up and for bringing up the topic of client-attorney privilege. I want to assure you that I have a strong understanding of its requirements, as it's a very important concept to interpret correctly. Just to clarify, my work with Elizabeth was focused on PR crisis management and strategy, not on providing legal services or representation. For client-attorney privilege to exist, an attorney must be involved in giving legal advice, which wasn't the case in this situation. Additionally, we never finalized a formal contract, and I didn't receive any payment for legal services, further confirming that no attorney-client relationship was ever established. My role was that of a freelance PR consultant. Therefore, client-attorney privilege simply doesn't apply to our communications or the work I did. Regarding your project, I've decided to take a few days to carefully consider the information I have before moving forward. I apologize if my previous outreach was premature and appreciate you understanding this.
Good evening, TJ. We hope this email finds you well. We just got out of a meeting with our production and research team, and I wanted to send you over a few questions while I have them fresh in my mind. Please see below. How much money does Elizabeth owe you for the services rendered? You previously mentioned a Robbie who referred her to you. Who is he? Elizabeth allegedly told multiple people that she was friends with the sheriff of Hillsborough County, Chad Chronister. Did she mention that to you? Do you know if there's any truth to that? Can you provide a list of your services and their corresponding hourly rates? Did you work in the Tampa area before working in Missouri? We understand if you aren't comfortable sharing the recordings with us, and we'll respect your decision. We were wondering, though, if you would be willing to share any email communication you had with Elizabeth. Thank you for your time.
I recall a conversation about her knowing someone connected, but I don't specifically recall a reference to Chronister. Fee agreement attached in reference to fee she conveniently skipped out on. My fees are specific to the case I am working on. Therefore, there is no set fee schedule. I have spent time in Florida. In 2022, I worked a wrongful conviction case located at Lowell Men's Correctional Facility. I am not up to date on your podcast series, but wonder if you have covered or plan to cover ET's rape allegations leveled at ASC last year.
Hello, TJ. We aren't aware of such allegations. Elizabeth is refusing to speak with us. Therefore, it would be difficult to cover that. We have reached out many times and still at this point would be happy to have an on-record conversation with her regarding any and all allegations made towards her and by her.
If there were a recording of her that could be 100% authenticated that accused Doc of essaying her, would that be of interest?
We would be interested in hearing it. Hi, TJ. We haven't heard back from you. If you aren't going to provide a recording, please do not waste our time any further. Between meetings with producers and now the FBI, our schedules and frankly, our mental bandwidth is capped out.
Understood. No games, but there is still no NDA in place. So I wasn't going to move as quickly as you would like me to anyway.
Correct. There is no NDA in place, and you have not provided ID verification, as we previously mentioned. We sent over an NDA last week. If you'd like to move forward, we'd be happy to. However, the back and forth is laborious.
First, regarding your NDA. It is one-sided, and we both know that. I would be literally out of my mind to agree to it. Specifically, I require confidentiality protection and shared control over how the information is used and disclosed. Second, in exchange for providing this, I am seeking a referral to established true crime influencers who might be interested in a separate case out of Texas I am working on that requires national exposure. This would be a separate matter from Elizabeth's case, but represents fair value for the extensive research I am providing to you. If these terms align with your needs, I suggest we have a brief call to discuss the NDA modifications and the referral arrangement. If this is not of interest to you, please advise because I have other individuals who seem quite interested. I look forward to your response.
Good morning, TJ. Our contracts are industry standard. You have mentioned confidentiality protection multiple times. Please provide a detailed explanation of precisely what you are looking for. We are willing to have a Zoom call with you after you provide us with your ID verification. Otherwise, we will not communicate any further. Good morning, TJ. It has come to our attention that the ex-husband of Elizabeth, Andrew, is alleging that you scammed him out of roughly $7,000. We want to offer you the chance to address this claim and share your side.
For now, we have yet to hear back from the mysterious CJ Talker, but this took us on a ride we were not initially strapped in for. Since we thought this was Elizabeth because of her history of fabricating lawyers and paralegals, I sent a screenshot to Andrew and said, "Thought you'd appreciate these," expecting him to say something along the lines of, "She's at it again," or "Yeah, been there." Now, if you're in a place where you're not able to audibly gasp without judgments or stares from others, this is your warning to pause and return when it's safe. The last thing I expected to hear from Andrew was, "Oh my gosh, she basically scammed me. What in the world is she contacting you for?" Folks, when I saw that message come through, I truly understood for the first time what my jaw dropped to the floor meant, because I thought I was going to need surgical intervention from it dropping so low to put it back into place. When I finally did pick it up, I clarified that it was CJ Talker he was talking about and not Elizabeth. Andrew said yes, it was CJ, and he had given her a hefty amount of money for help in a lawsuit, and she was so unreliable and continuously dropping the ball that he had to cut his losses. From there, we dug deeper, even reached out to Elizabeth to see if she knew her and got a statement back.
That paralegal signed a client document to not discuss my personal business. If she does and is on your shown, you will have legal issues. I've spoken to Rach. I'm bowing out of this. Continue with what you want to do. I have nothing to say about it. I've hurt people and deserve to be exposed. I just want to move forward for my children. That is all I have to say. Good luck.
So, is CJ Talker a concerned legal professional trying to help? A scammer playing both sides? Or another one of Liz's many personalities with a fresh burner email? We weren't sure. So, again, we hired help. And just when we thought we had the whole story, a sequel dropped in our laps. Thank you for listening to the e-LIES-abeth podcast. While we're behind the scenes preparing for season 2, we wanted to leave you with some information that may help the slow wheels of justice turn a little faster. Since launching the series, we have been asked how listeners can get involved and help. One of those ways so many of you are already doing already, which is spreading the word and recommending the podcast to the masses. Another way is by encouraging every victim to share their story with law officials. We reached out to the Florida State Attorney's Office about how victims should go about reporting their crimes, and this is what we were told.
Hypothetically, if there were an individual who had scammed multiple elderly men out of hundreds of thousands of dollars, what steps would need to be taken to have charges brought against that individual? The first thing any victim should do, if they believe a crime has been committed, is to call the local authorities to file a police report. Law enforcement would open an investigation to gather evidence for our office to review. If the evidence the agency provides supports criminal charges, our office would formally file charges and move forward with prosecution. Hypothetically, if there were an individual who was to solicit and accept donations under the guise of having created a nonprofit charity, but the business entity was never actually made or granted nonprofit status by the IRS, what steps could those victims take to receive justice? The same answer for question 1 applies to this question as well. What general steps should victims take if they believe they've been scammed or defrauded? And how can they best ensure that their case is taken seriously by authorities? If a victim believes that they have been scammed or defrauded, they should document everything. This includes emails, texts, receipts, and any other form of communication. Call the authorities and provide clear details along with any evidence you have to help investigators to establish timelines and gather other evidence. We have also seen cases where a scammer posts pictures of items or vacations purchased with stolen funds. In general, how is social media evidence typically gathered and used in cases involving scams or fraud? And what challenges might prosecutors face when relying on that type of evidence? Social media and phones in general can play an important role in many different types of cases. Evidence can include posts, messages, or profiles used to carry out a scam. Sometimes gathering that evidence through these platforms can take time with subpoenas or warrants served to the social media platform. The challenge can sometimes be authenticating an account or the time frame it can take to get the information requested from the platform itself. What protections or resources are available for victims of scams or fraud, and how can they access these protections to ensure their safety and support throughout the legal process? Our office has a dedicated victims assistance program that offers services to crime victims. Our victim advocates can help people with anything from counseling to helping to file a victim compensation claim. If you visit our website, we have created a new victim toolkit, which is a one-stop shop for victims of crime. www.sao13th.com/victim toolkit.
Remember that investigations take time, and in order for a case with this amount of fraud and complexities to achieve justice, it has to be done right. As of July 2025, we are aware that the steps of getting there have been taken, and we encourage anyone with evidence against Elizabeth Teckenbrock to contact us through email. We will have that email for you in the show notes. Stay safe, and we will see you next season.